Hey y'all, what's going on? It's me, Timmésha Burgess, creator of this here Fireside Chats for Global Women because turning pain into power is sexy. So I'm going to share with y'all one of the number one things that contributes to what we are calling anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts as it relates to your sexuality education and as it relates to sexual health information, as it relates to your sexual and sensual selves. You ready? The number one thing for me that contributed to what I thought was anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts was my suppression of my sexual and sensual nature. Throughout my life, y'all, I experienced fake friendships, what people would call frenemies, right? People who I found were uncomfortable with my beingness. They were uncomfortable with my energy. And the energy they were uncomfortable with that I later found out when I went on the inner journey of myself, when I went on this inner dark night of the soul journey, when I went into discovering who and what I am and why I've come to the planet, was my sensual and sexual energy. I naturally gave off this energy that people call sensual and that people call sexy, which is why I created Fireside Chats for Global Women, because turning pain into power is sexy. I didn't just come up with that because it sounded cute, right? This is a philosophy that I live by, and I am only able to live by it because I have had these experiences in my day-to-day life. And so I found myself suppressing what I thought made other people uncomfortable. I found myself suppressing what I thought made other people uncomfortable, i.e., the sensual and sexy part of myself. Especially when you have certain women as friends. I didn't say all women, I said certain women as friends. When you carry a certain energy about yourself and you are around you have women friends who dating somebody or they like somebody or whatever the case. Let me just give an example. In college, this is when I really recognized this energy about myself that I didn't know was sensual and sexy, right? While I was in college, I went to a really small school, LaGrange College, for those of you that know it. That was where I earned my bachelor's. And we had a football team. We had just got a football team, and football teams pretty much at every college or every university are pretty popular guys, right? There was this one guy in the football team that one of the girls in my friend group liked. I didn't know who the guy was. I'd never seen the guy, but she raved about him. Well, one day, turns out that this guy was interested in me. I didn't know it was the same guy, but he was interested in me. When she found out, she was livid. She never spoke to me again. And I said, well, why isn't such and such talking to me? And they were like, because because such and such likes you, and she blames you, right? She said, that she liked him and da 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 da. Anyway, I didn't know who the guy was. I just know she raved about him. I never seen him or anything like that. What I found that was more upsetting than anything, again, I didn't know the face of the guy or anything like that, but what I found more upsetting than anything was that she thought that I knew. She thought that I had done something to make him want me. She thought that I had done something to make him like me and want me and not her. And again, at that time, I was not in the energy that I am now. I had no idea honey, if I had known, oh, I would have been much more handful than I already was. And when I say that, didn't mean that I brought trouble. It means that I would have stood taller in who I was had I known, and I would have fully benefited from what I had, energetically wise, mentally wise, intellectually wise. I would have fully benefited, but I played small. I shut myself down. I played this overly humble role. When I did find out who the guy was, he tried to approach me a couple of times and I would just reject him. I wouldn't talk to him. I would walk past. I wouldn't even acknowledge him. I would hold my head down when I saw him coming, or I would try to go the other way because I wanted to be a good friend. I wanted, and you know what's so funny? Her and I were never really friends. I say we were in the same friend groups, but her and I, we never hung out. We never talked on the phone. She never did anything for me. I think I may have done a couple things for her. I think she needed a ride one time. I had a car, gave her a ride. I think she needed help paying for lunch one time. I paid for her lunch, gave her some money. So yeah, I can always say I've always been that person, right? Always been the person that was the friend and giving, but I didn't receive those same things from her. So I can't say that we were truly friends, right? But I didn't want to make any enemies. I wanted to, I wanted to be on the good side of things. And let me tell you something, the college that I went to was less than 2% blacks. So to me, even at that time, I knew how important it was, or I felt it was really important for blacks to stick together. It was less than 2% of us, especially black girls. I just broke my nail just a little while ago, putting my groceries away. I'm so upset. And these are my real nails. Anyway, let me just keep going. But it was so important that we stick together, and there weren't many black girls on campus. So in my mind, I'm like, this is my peer group. This is all I've got. So let me try to make it the best that I can. My goodness, had I known now what I knew then, I wouldn't have given a damn about my so-called same skin peer groups. I would have been hanging out with Sally and Becky and them. I should have. Okay, Sally and Becky and them didn't have any issues going on like we were having amongst the few little black female friends we had on campus, okay? They were having a good time, passing tests. They were even going out of the country. Their parents was flying them to Paris. And honey, I should have had friends like that. That's the friends I should have kept around. But I, in my mind, of course, the way we all think as black melanin women growing up, that's your peer group. That's who you need to try to hang around and be around. They look like you, so you need to try to make it work. But anyway, that's just an example that I wanted to give about this energy that I have always had that I didn't know that I had. And this isn't the first time this happened in my life. This also happened in high school, attracting the guy that other girls wanted, but the guy didn't want them. The guy always seemed to be attracted to me. I always seemed to live out these scenarios where I became the enemy of some females because of a guy. And it had nothing to do with me. I was never the girl, and I'm still not the woman that try to put myself out there to be seen or to be wanted by anybody. I was always very to myself. I've kept a very small knit kind of group of maybe no more than 2 girls, and out of those 2, one was still my best friend. And I kept that same best friend throughout middle school and high school. So I wasn't out there like that. I wasn't a part of the cheerleading squad. I wasn't any of that stuff. I always kept to myself and always kept my head in my books. And maybe that was what attracted the guys that most of the girls wanted. They wanted the girl who had her head in her books. But I'm bringing that up to get back to the point, is a lot of what I thought was anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts was me suppressing my sexual and sensual self, this energy that I carry. What we're calling sexy and sensual, we only call it sexy and sensual because it's magnetic, because it attracts people to you, because it draws people to you when you have this certain type of energy. When you have this certain type of energy, it draws people to you. It makes you magnetic. It makes you attractive. It makes people want to be around you. And so people call it sexy and sensual because there are some parts of them that are aroused when they're around you. There's some parts of you that arouse certain people. Arouse them not just physically, but arouse them mentally. Maybe you arouse them spiritually. Maybe you arouse them intellectually, okay? And so a lot of what some of you are experiencing is the suppression of your sensual and sexual self. You play these overly humble roles because you don't want to make people uncomfortable, right? You don't want to lose your so-called friends, who I guarantee you are not your friends if they are intimidated when they see you in your certain type of je ne sais quoi. If you cannot shine around a certain peer group, they are not your friends. If you cannot be expressive in all that you are around certain peer groups, they are not your friends. If you can't be fully in your intelligence or in your beauty or even in your flaws and your rawness and your purity, if you cannot be magnetic, comfortably magnetic, and around certain peer groups, they're not your friends, because the moment you begin to sparkle or shine and they begin to frown and look at you like you think you're all that, it's time to rethink who you are calling your friends, okay? Especially for my young girls, when you are approaching your period, okay, you're approaching your menstrual cycle, maybe you haven't started your cycle yet and you're approaching it. I believe there are some girls who start their cycles as I've heard as young as 8 years old. I think there was a girl who started her cycle as young as 7 years old. There could be other cases, but that's the youngest that I've heard. I started mine when I was 13. When I was 13, 12 or 13. This is the beginning and activation of this sensual and sexual power and energy that's going to start awakening in you, that you really need to learn about. And it's important that you get around people such as myself or others who have been on this journey that know what's happening in your body, not just medically and scientifically, but that what's happening on a spiritual and energetic level. To me, that is just as important and is an infinite important part of the same whole as knowing yourself scientifically and knowing yourself medically, okay? Knowing yourself spiritually and energetically is just as important as knowing yourself scientifically and medically, okay? When you go to the doctors are going to explain to you on a physiological level of what's happening to your body, right? When you're on your period, it's telling you about the eggs sloughing off, and it's telling you how the eggs are coming through the fallopian tubes and how they're whatever. They'll explain the scientific medical part, but there is a spiritual and energetic part that you also must know, so that you can start to come into knowledge of yourself, not just your physical self, but your spiritual and energetic self, in a way that empowers you, that motivates you, and that helps you put you in your power, that helps give you the confidence that you will need, and the emotional intelligence that you will need, and the mental health that you will need to navigate this thing we call life, to navigate your body, to be able to be comfortable in the body that you're born into, right? So when you're approaching this cycle in your life, this is when this energy is starting to awaken itself in you. There needs to be somebody around that can explain to you what is happening on an energetic and spiritual level as well. Those of you who are experiencing levels of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts, who this information is for, I can assure you that a large amount of that has to do with the suppression of your sensual and sexual self, meaning the part of you, let me just clear this. Sensuality and sexuality doesn't have to do with sex, okay? Sensuality and sexuality is categorically different than sex. Let me just clarify that, okay? I'll say it again. Sensuality and sexuality is categorically different than sex. It has nothing to do with sex and everything to do with the knowledge of yourself, spiritually and energetically, okay? So as this energetic self, this sexy, sensual self of you begins to awaken, it's very important that you understand what this even means, what will start happening to you at a physical and mental level, and how you should navigate this power and this energy, what you can do to activate this power and this energy for your well-being and your personal development. Your sensuality and your sexuality can help you heal your body. Your sensuality and sexuality can help you discern who your friends are and who they are not. Your sensuality and sexuality can help you discern who you should date and who you shouldn't. It'll even help you navigate what career choices you should make, what jobs you should take, what jobs you shouldn't take, where you should travel, where you should go to school, how to study, how to pass your tests, how to clear your skin, how to grow your hair, how to grow your nails. These are my nails again. This one just broke. It just broke. Oh my God. But this is how powerful this energy is. And so many have this misconception that sensuality and sexuality has to do with teaching about sex. That is not what this is. This is about teaching about self. This is about knowing thyself. So again, for those of you, women and girls, who are subscribed here. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're hearing this information for the first time. If you've not come into knowledge about sensuality and sexuality as it relates to you, as it relates to your life, as it relates to your mind and your self-development, okay, you're probably experiencing extreme levels of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts because you've been taught to hide this part of yourself. We know the saying, what's the old school saying when old school folks, our parents or maybe grandparents would say stuff like, or you hear somebody else's parents say, oh, he or she hot in the tail. She look like she hot in the tail. Look at her. Well, don't get me wrong. There was some hot in the tail ones growing up, but let's dive a little bit deeper. Because that's a whole another conversation in and of itself. I mean, some that were called hot in the tail, some of them have experienced have experienced some sort of sexual exploitation and sexual trauma. That's real. That starts to show up in your energetic fields. But that's a whole nother conversation I'm not trying to go into right now. I wanted to make this video short. But a lot of you have probably played the overly humble role in your life, have taught yourself how to hide, how to be invisible. You've taught yourself how to navigate in a way where you're unseen because you don't want to ruffle any feathers. You don't want to offend anyone. You want to make friends. You want to keep the friend girls that you have. So you play this overly humble role and try to be invisible so that your friends don't get intimidated by the fact that you're pretty. So your friends don't get intimidated by the fact that you're attractive, that you're magnetic. So you taught yourself to hide. You taught yourself to play in the shadows. And you're wondering why you're suffering from levels of anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts? I assure you that this is why. It's really, really important that you learn what your sexual and sensual self even means and what it is. And it has nothing to do with sex. So I'll see y'all on the next video. I hope this resonated with you. If you're subscribed here on Fireside Chats for Global Women, then this probably did resonate with you. And I'll see you all in the next video. Listen, if you're not subscribed here, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Love me like you do. Love me like you do, babe. Subscribe. Get your copy of Activate if you haven't gotten your copy. Unorthodox Philosophies that explore anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts as symptoms of suppressed superpower. Get your merch. Fear of Feminine Power is a mental disorder, and there is new merch available. Listen, Pussy Power, P-O-O-S-E, because she can do more with the power of her pussy than just have penetration. Oh my gosh, what did I just say? Yeah, I just said that. We're talking about alchemy, kundalini, and the divine feminine, okay? Your body down there is much more powerful. And you want to know what else it means and what else it can do besides just being penetrated, okay? Anyway, I'll see you all on the next cast. Thank you for being here. Ciao for now.